Here to Raising Start's Childcare Centre. Great to be with Nicola Willis, our Minister of Finance, and also Carlos Chong, our MP for this area. And I just want to say it's really exciting for us because this is the week that actually people who are struggling with early childcare costs get some relief because they're able to actually apply for up to $975 a quarter and get a reimbursement payment on some of those fees. And so it's been great to come here, see a great facility that's training young minds and getting our kids set off to a good start so they can do well in the world, and equally to meet with some parents and talk about the fact that that help and that assistance is really going to be meaningful to them as they deal with the cost of living crisis and the challenges of actually running young families, balancing work and life in any given week. With that, happy to take your questions. So I'll go to Katie.
Why have you designed the family boost system in this way? Parents obviously have to pay those upfront costs, a lot of money. They've got to go through the computer system. They've got to apply for it. It creates a lot of admin for busy parents.
Yeah, I'll let Nicola talk to that.
Yeah, look, our preference would have been to have this as an automatic refund. We were advised by officials that that wasn't possible with their current systems. So we had a choice of either delaying this for a number of years or delivering on it this year. We've chosen to deliver on it this year. And my message to parents is, if you've got early childhood costs, go onto the IRD website. I've spoken to parents who have. It's not too hard and it's worth it. Up to $975 in payment, and I want every parent who is eligible for this payment to get what they are entitled to. So please go on, bring your invoice, put it on, and you can get that money straight into your bank account. I'm advised by IRD that we've already had more than 30,000 people register, and IRD advised payments will be going into bank accounts as early as next week.
What about the extra admin for NCE centres at a time when David Seymour in particular is moving to cut red tape and regulation for centres? You've actually given them an extra job of having to generate quarterly invoices. ECE centres want what we want, which is more affordable early childhood education. And they recognise that this delivers that. They care about their parents, they care about their families, and printing an invoice is a small task to ensure that parents get hundreds of dollars in compensation. So I think they're on the same page as us. They see their families coming in every day, they know the financial pressure they face, and they want to help them out. Labour's 20-hour free policies have given more parents money back, and it would be easier for the NCE centres as well.
Well, look, there were real questions about how deliverable that policy was. Early childhood centres had real concerns about the proposed funding rates, the complexity of it. It had all sorts of issues. This is a simple scheme. It's for all children in early childhood education, not just 2-year-olds. Whatever age your child is, you can be eligible for this payment. And as I say, up to $975 every 3 months. That's meaningful cash straight into parents' bank accounts so they can choose how to use it.
That's the max for low income, right? Some
That's right.
will only get a few dollars.
Yeah, we have targeted this because we're really focused on lower and middle income families.
Prime Minister, Census data has shown that the median rent has gone up from $340 to $450. Is that acceptable?
Well, look, I'll just say there's a range of actual data that's out there talking about rents. I've seen also data saying that since we've come to office, actually rents have been stable, which has been a good thing. We know that there's a lot more work for us to do to get rents down. It all comes down to housing supply. The market is actually connected. If you can't buy a house, you rent a house. If you can't rent a house, you end up on a state or a social house wait list, and you end up in emergency housing. We're working all 4 aspects of the housing market.
Can you guarantee that landlords will pass on interest deductibility to their tenants?
Well, again, interest deductibility is a legitimate business expense, and as I said, by pulling the Bright Line test back to 2 years, by interest deductibility, there's no doubt about it. That's going to help put downward pressure on rents.
But we haven't seen that yet. Those policies have now been in place for some time. It would have given time for those to move.
Yeah, again, I just say to you, there's a range of data, and I've looked at other data that suggests that our rents are pretty stable at the moment. But what we've got to do is make sure that we increase the supply of rental property in the market, and adding costs onto Landlord, as the previous administration did, driving up rents $180 a week is not the way forward. We want to encourage landlords in the private rental market to make homes available and to make sure that the way you don't solve a housing crisis by putting more costs on landlords.
What's an acceptable rent increase then for landlords given everything you have done?
Well,
to try and stabilise
Well, again, it's unique to situations. It's unique to landlords. It's unique to to tenants and landlord relationships. But what I just say to you, we've got to set the macro settings in place to make sure that actually there is a supply of rental property, there is a supply of new houses available in the market, there is a supply of social and state housing available, and obviously we want to get people out of emergency housing. One of the things I'm incredibly proud about is in a very short period of time we've been able to move 1,300 young people, young kids that have been being raised in motels, out of motels into the private rental market or into social state housing, and that's something that we've worked incredibly hard at since April, and we've made some great progress on it.
Prime Minister, are you across the census data that's come out this morning? If so, what's your reaction?
I just saw some headlines. Not surprising, New Zealand's becoming more multicultural. I think almost 30% of New Zealanders having been born overseas. Obviously, I represent an electorate called Botany, where we've had, I think, over 50% of people having been born overseas that live in my electorate. So, it's exciting, and New Zealand's a much better place because it's more diverse, a richer culturally, economically, socially, because of immigrants. So I have huge admiration for immigrants to New Zealand. They leave everything that they know behind. They leave their family, their friends, their culture, their language. They come to New Zealand because they believe this is a place, if they work hard, they can get ahead. And that's what Nicola, Carlos and I are working incredibly hard to do, is to make sure that is the experience for them.
How about this figure? Over half of Kiwis identifying not religious. What's your take on that?
Oh, that's not surprising at all. We are a country where people have religious freedom to believe what they wish to believe, and we want to encourage and support that.
Smoking rates have halved since the last census. Your take on that?
Yeah, well, I'll just say to you, we are very determined to lower smoking rates across New Zealand, and we have made tremendous progress over the last year. I think we've gone from 8.6% of the country being daily smokers down to 6.8%. Our smoke-free 2025 target is 5%. We're doing everything we can to make sure that we make alternatives available. We keep driving people into quitting smoking, and we've got a minister who's very determined to do that.
On smoking, then, can you explain why you were talking about that trial of heated tobacco devices on the very day those devices were actually banned from sale?
Well, look, I mean, Labor had a tightening of those regulations, which we support and we've extended. We actually gave manufacturers another 6 months to make sure that we have child-proof alternatives, smokeless tobacco products, and whether it's vapes or whether it's heated tobacco products. The manufacturers had 6 months longer to adjust to that. If they choose to comply with our regulations and make those products available, great, but we are striking the balance between child-proofing alternatives to smoking and also making those tools available to people.
So how could you, in case at the start, not have known that was coming in, given you had just given those very products a big tax cut?
Well, I'd just say I'm aware that I'm not familiar with the products myself. I don't vape or smoke or use heated tobacco products. But I just say to you, I'm well aware that we were child-proofing alternatives to smoking. And again, we gave 6 months more to manufacturers. If they choose to provide those products while being compliant with our regulations, great. If they choose not to, that's up to them.
So you're willing to promote those at the same time? You just said you don't know much about them, but you're willing to stand there and use it.
Well, I don't. What I meant is we want to encourage alternatives to smoking, and you've seen 230,000 people come off smoking because of vapes. We're up for trialling heated tobacco products if they work and incentivise people to give up smoking and try something different to get them away from smoking. That's a good thing. As you know, that we've said that we want to lower smoking rates. We want to deliver on smoke-free 2025. We will do that, and the way that we do that is we make alternatives available.
Do you
So what is
that
it?
tax cut on heated tobacco products benefited Philip Morris?
No, I disagree. What's happening is that we have said we are up for looking at alternative products, so heated tobacco. We want to try that for 12 months and see how that goes with respect to having half the excise tax associated with those products relative to cigarettes and smoking. And what we did from an accounting point of view is just make sure that we put the maximum, most conservative number aside, allowing for large numbers of conversion from smoking into heated tobacco products. So all we've done is put the loss of revenue. We've identified that on the books as good financial prudent managers, as we should. As to what actually happens, we'll have to see what consumers choose to do and whether they do adopt heated tobacco products or not, but we've just accounted for that loss of revenue.
Do you accept if people do take up those heated tobacco products that will financially benefit Philip Morris?
Well, what I accept is it benefits New Zealanders, because actually what we're interested in here is what benefits Kiwis, and getting off smoking into alternatives that gets people off smoking is only a good thing.
So with that said,
Sorry.
were you actually aware that these products
would be pulled from the shelves on October 1st?
What I was aware of is that we were child-proofing alternatives, whether it's vape or heated tobacco products. But again, the manufacturers, we actually extended the introduction of these regulations by 6 months to give manufacturers time to actually make sure they were fully compliant with our regulations. If they choose to deliver these products while being compliant, fantastic. If they don't, so be it.
So have you question, were you aware?
I was aware that we were child-proofing alternatives to smoking. Yep.
But were you aware that was coming in on the very day you were talking about?
Yeah, because we extended it 6 months, yes.
So have you actually seen the advice now that was provided to Minister Chris Luxon about the excess tax cut?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Have you actually seen the advice that was provided to the Minister before making this decision?
No, I haven't. You need to talk to the Minister about that. But I know I've got a Minister that's very determined to lower smoking rates across New Zealand. That's a good
Are you
thing.
concerned that Minister is basing her decisions based on advice from political right?
No, that Minister, Casey Costello, I can tell you in my conversations with her, is very, very focused on delivering smoke-free 2025, and making alternatives available is important. You know.
But have you asked her if she's basing her decision on advice from
I don't need to. I have conversations with her about delivering on the targets that I've set her, which is to deliver smoke-free 2025. That is her job. That is what she's taking very seriously. That is why she's making sure we get the balance right between child-proofing alternative tools to smoking and also making sure that those tools and alternatives are available.
Back to education. So it's great that you're doing subsidies and it's going to help a lot of families. But if you were to send your kids today to school, would you choose private or public?
I've been in a different position where I was able to send my kids to private school, but I want every New Zealander to have the opportunity that I had. I'm a recipient of a state school education, first in my family to go to university. I was able to go out in the world with a Kiwi education and do well for myself. I want that for every single New Zealander. And as you can see, our government in the last 10 months is doing everything we possibly can to improve and raise the quality of our public education here in New Zealand and education in general. What we are doing is making sure that we get our kids to school, and I'd say to parents, teachers, everybody, make sure kids show up and get them to school, because we still have a long way to go there. We need to be able to teach the basics really well, reading and mathematics, and that's what we're putting a huge effort around.
And I can say I've got 4 children at public school and they have some extraordinary teachers.
Amazing. And in a recent study, a lot of teachers sort of not meeting basic competencies in English, math, science, etc. And a lot of people migrating across the ditch. Do you think we are at the acceptable standard level for education?
Well, we are constructively dissatisfied in this government, and we are determined to improve it. As you know, we've set ourselves some very, very ambitious targets to make sure that we build out a world-class education system. And I can tell you, Erica Stanford, myself, Nicola, Carlos, we're all very committed to that. You've seen us do things like implement structured literacy this year. We're training 8,000 teachers this year, another 8,000 next year. So irrespective of where you go to school and what position your school is in and what community you come from, every kid in New Zealand, irrespective of their circumstances, gets a shot at their Kiwi dream because they are taught the one way, same way, every day how to read. You've seen it with respect to mathematics. 4 out of 5 of our kids arriving at high school are not at the standard they need to be on maths. And so we have accelerated and pulled forward, beginning in term 1 next year, a new maths curriculum. We'll actually make sure that we teach it more like we see in Singapore and Australia, so that our kids can be set up, because we actually need to be able to build the 4-lane freeways from Auckland to Whangarei. We need to be able to be, leaders in artificial intelligence and agri-science. Well, we need to be able to do that, and we want to make sure our kids can do that by reading and doing maths well.
Talking of building freeways, your government has been reviewing a lot of projects but also cancelling a lot of them. How bad are the government books at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's no secret. I mean, we inherited a hell of a mess, and what Nicola and I are doing is cleaning it up, and it's incredibly frustrating, the economic mismanagement of the previous administration. But now we own it, and we're going to fix it, and that's what you're seeing us do. And so we are prepared to make tough choices, because it's not right that we continue to run up our debt. It's not right that we don't deal with inflation, get interest rates down, deal with the recession, and we are doing that. We've got good financial discipline in place. You've seen inflation come down. We expect it to continue to come down into the band that we need it to. You've seen our first interest rate cuts. We've seen good levels of rising confidence as people look forward and say they believe things will get better. We've got to make sure that we get the economy out of recession and then ultimately keep people in work. So, we're working incredibly hard to undo 6 years of economic vandalism and mismanagement.
Are you working with the Defence Force to be Lebanon at all? Are you looking at
option?
Yeah, what I'd just say on that is that first and foremost, that is why we've been calling for restraint, de-escalation and a ceasefire. What we're seeing in the Middle East is catastrophic for civilians and people who are innocent victims getting caught up in conflict. And so we just are doing everything we can and have done since this conflict kicked off to make sure that we are urging all parties to actually get round the table and negotiate a settlement and to get away from conflict. What I'd say to New Zealanders is do not travel to Lebanon, Israel or Gaza or Iran. Make sure if you are there now, leave now where you can through commercial routes. We have about just under 50 New Zealanders that have registered on Safe Travel. Our officials have talked to all of them over the course of the last few days and are in ongoing conversations with them. Many of them actually want to stay, but they are in constant conversation given their individual circumstances with our officials.
Would you talk to Australia about working with them, as has been done in the past, if people do want to get out?
We have our relationships with partner countries and alternatives to work through with each New Zealander that's there. But as I said, there's just less than 50, say in Lebanon, and our officials have been talking with them, and their circumstances are all quite individual and different.
Last question, please. Sorry, Mr. Luxon, on this Australian diplomat, what is your position on police seeking to waive diplomatic immunity?
Again, look, that's an issue for police. I'm not fully up to speed with all the details yet, but ultimately that's an issue for police to work through.
Is it acceptable for a partner of a diplomat from Australia to commit an assault?
Again, I'm not going to go into that issue while there's an investigation going on, and ultimately that's an issue that needs to be worked through properly.
Have you been made aware of a hack of a large chain of a hearing clinic in New Zealand that could potentially be affecting thousands of customers' sensitive information? Have you received any advice on that?
Personally, I haven't been briefed on that, but I can tell you I am briefed a lot around cyber security and also on foreign interference. And again, it's why we've been raising our conversation with the New Zealand publicly about that, so that New Zealanders are putting defences in place and doing everything they need to do to protect their data and their customers' data. Okay, thanks, team. Sorry?
How do you feel about being ranked number 6 in the emergency boardroom?
Well, I can tell you I am stoked because you can see we have built a great team, and many of our ministers are well appreciated for the job that they're doing, and the fact that we have built out a coalition government of 3 parties, ministers, put the right ministers on the right assignments, that's my job, and that they're all performing incredibly well is really encouraging. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We've got a great country, but we've got to get it turned around and sorted, and I know all those ministers are working incredibly hard to do just that.
And great leaders build great teams, put people in the right places and allow them to perform their absolute best, and as Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon is doing that.
Awesome.
I've been a bit busy.
We're all doing pretty well, as the headline, so don't you worry. But we've got a lot of work to do. We'll carry on. All right, team. Thanks so much. See ya.